Starts. I believe you heard the message. So another thing what I wanted to share actually with you is that GoDaddy Pro is sponsoring Femtech conference this year. It's a conference dedicated to female developers and tech ladies. If you know someone that you would like to actually give the ticket to, because the tickets are costly and we give them away. So as a part of our sponsorship, if you know somebody who would actually benefit from going to this conference, please let me know and get in touch with me. It's very easy to get in touch with me, obviously. So just let me know how we can help someone that you really would like. So now moving to our guests today. Today we have two esteemed guests. The first guest that I would like to introduce today is Tomasz. Why? Because Tomasz is the first person that I contacted. Tomasz Tomasz and his colleague Kacper work in a Neoteric company in Poland. And they're very popular worldwide, I can tell you that, because people really appreciate their work, and especially when it comes to artificial intelligence. Today, our talk is how. Thanks, Abba, for sharing about this talk. Yes, thank you. So basically, what we will be talking today is how the implementation of artificial intelligence tools could actually improve your or your client's websites, and why you need to do that. So without further ado, first I would like to introduce Tomasz. Tomasz, please. Thank you.
Hi everyone.
Maybe you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to meet you. I'm Tom Jurkiewicz. I've got about 11 years of experience in the field of digitalization. So I'm really glad to meet you all. And today we are going to talk about AI, how it can impact your businesses, and how AI can also transform our lives. When it comes to my life, regarding my academic background, I finished MBA with University of Rockhampton. I also finished postgraduate studies with University of Liverpool in coaching. So I'm the one also who's connecting AI with a human being. So I like very much to see how, in fact, AI can change lives of other people. And that's my goal during my professional projects as well. So now I will hand over to Maya, and I'm looking forward for a fruitful conversation with you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of connection requests after this meeting. And another thing is now it's the Kacper. Am I pronouncing your name properly? Kacper.
Yeah, it's universal. You can say Kacper, Kasper, Jasper. It's always there are in different countries. Different people say that, but it's hard to make a mistake. It's kind of simple. But Kacper, that's the Polish name. It's you hit it.
I'm glad. So first, thank you very much for actually sharing, wanting to share such a great topic with us and lots of knowledge. And maybe you can just briefly introduce yourself.
Yes, of course. Thank you for the invitation. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm happy to see so many faces that would like to hear what I have to say about AI. It's really nice. I am AI team leader at Neoteric, and what I do, I build a strategy and the business process, and find the right business process in the organization where AI can give the biggest value. After that, if I found such thing, I start and plan the development with the roadmaps, with the right developers that will able to deliver such a product. So I am the whole pipeline from the beginning, discussing about business needs at the end to delivering the final product.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Before you start with presentation, I just want to share with you guys I actually asked a very tricky question on LinkedIn and on Twitter. It's related to AI, but it's not very related to the websites. It's related to actually developers and IE, or actually of artificial intelligence, AI. So I asked the question, will AI replace programmers in the next 10 to 15 years? And I didn't even think that this post would reach 303 votes. And it reached more than 5,000 people so far. And there is a thread of like 20 plus comments where people are actually fighting for their opinion, why 80% think people that it will not change, and then 20% of people think that it will eventually change to it. When I saw that there is a huge interest in this topic, I did the same thing on the Twitter. We didn't get as many votes as that, but the ratio is quite similar. So it's 70-30 or 80-20. So I just want to actually, my first question to you is, before you start with presentation, is why we have such a rough split on the topic, will AI replace the programmers or it will not? Why there is a conflict of opinions?
Well, conflict usually appears where there's not specific any proofs that will prove the hypothesis or reject it. Like, you know, we are talking about the question is what will happen in the next 10-15 years. It's a long distance, first of all, so it's really hard to predict in which direction machine learning, because basically this is the AI solutions are built from machine learning algorithms, will go, how this science as machine learning will be developed. And building huge architectures. People who are developers here I probably know there are very, very complicated problems for different use cases, and it's really hard to say at that point if it will be possible or not. For sure, it won't happen like snapping a finger. Maybe some parts of the functionalities will be in some parts automate or be able to solve at to some level of accuracy or adjustment, but I still think that it's a very slow and long-term process. And I don't know. If someone would ask me, I will answer that I don't know if it happens or not. It just 10-15 years, it's too much to predict in nowadays where the technology, where the science is so fast developing that it's really hard for me to say about it.
Thank you. I mean, I agree with you. This is the reason why I've put such a long period for people to start thinking. I mean, in this 2020, everything has changed in a couple of months. So
that's very interesting because, you know, hype about AI is from 2008, but it's much older kind of science. It was born in years in 50s, and from long time there was any way of using it. So, and a couple of last years where we see a real huge impact, how it can impact on the business, where people have suddenly found they want to invest in the AI. This also moved and pushed further the scientific part of the science to work, and the research universities that will also to able to work with that. And you know, it's like in this historical, there are ups and downs with specific technology or science. That happens once or two, even in when the AI the AI concept was developed from 50s, there was 2 ups and downs. So probably sooner or better we'll still get another down by a loss of interest in that part, and suddenly we'll know again gets an increased interest. So the changing environment nowadays, the technology and the science it's too much different variables that we have to consider to be able to predict anything nowadays.
Yeah, right now it's extremely challenging to predict the future, because even though now we might use AI in a couple of different domains, like making predictions and decision based on historical records, we are also focusing on at improving customer experience and increasing customer retention through using AI. And also we are focusing at increasing conversion rates and our revenue using AI. Who knows what would be the future of those solutions? So this is big question mark. And as Kasper said, we are without data now to predict the future. So we need to be patient, and let's see what would be the outcome of artificial intelligence solutions.
Thank you. Well, I believe it's the right time to start your presentation.
All right. Let me share my screen. Hopefully everything will work at first.
Okay. Yeah.
Share. Okay. You should be able to see the full screen of my presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Tom, you would like to add something before we start, or I can go?
Sure. So maybe I will just add a few use cases of AI which we are presently, which we adapted to our partners. So when it comes to Notoric, we've been very active in the field of AI for last years. For instance, for one of the biggest telecoms in Europe, we've managed to we've managed to decrease churn of 20% in 6 months with ROI, which generated 10 times ROI for this telecom. So that was one of our achievement, and it was done because of designing very accurate predictive models, which could predict in a very clever way how users of this telecom will behave. So that was a solution which managed to decrease this churn of 20%, and nowadays it's also used in different kind of organizations who wanted to make sure that customer satisfaction is on the highest possible level. So it was done basically because of predicting how particular client of telecom would behave. So whether it would be more beneficial to offer to this client a subscription for Netflix, or maybe for some sport channel. So this particular algorithm was able to predict what kind of offer would be the most attractive for client of this telecom. Secondly, I want to also do a little bit touch base about another partner for which we've managed to deliver a model which predict demand for cancer treatment with 80% accuracy rate. So it was also one of our achievements, because we've managed to achieve this rate through a number of different trainings of the model. And finally, it was possible to satisfy this client with achieving this rate for predicting cancer treatment. So nowadays, when it comes to situation with COVID, we are also working with clients in the field of healthcare to deliver also similar solutions for them. Finally, another use case which I wanted to a little bit tell, it's the recommendation system which was delivered for one of the biggest financial institutions worldwide, World Bank. And this recommendation engine supported the employees' development to make sure that those aligns with company goals. So as an outcome of this solution, the turnover of employees was reduced because this recommendation system was able to predict what would be the most profitable career path for particular employee of World Bank, considering the skills and competences of the person. So in a nutshell, those are the 3 use cases which I want to present before we will go more into details from technical perspective. And now I will hand over to Kacper, who will also present our perspective of working with AI.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So about enhancing your website with AI, when I first had this topic, I was thinking how, from what kind of vertical or part I want to present that. And I decided that I will talk about functionalities that AI that can be applied to the website via AI. But before that, let's make a brief introduction to AI, what it really is. I understand that some of you are really experienced and are experts in this field, but not everyone confirmed that he has any connection with AI. So just a brief introduction. This one for experts in that, please, 1 minute of patience. AI, basically, if you would like to think about AI, not go into too deep, think as a system that is able to predict something based on specific data. For example, let's assume you want to reduce the churn in your company. People are subscribing your service, but at some point of time, they're deciding to cancel subscription. So you are using AI to be able to predict who's gonna probably soon in next 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, cancel the subscription. That will allow you to take some kind of actions to prevent it, to prolong the subscription. So that's what AI do, and that's how it works. It looks at some kind of specific customer's data and will tell you, this guy gonna churn, this guy gonna left you, or this one not yet. So it allows, for example, manage the efforts of call centers to call different clients, prospects. But this is already working AI. But firstly, you have to build a model and train it. So this is most important part, because you have to show to the system from your historical data some database of customers who are still prolonging the subscription and the ones that already canceled it. Because AI systems are learners, they need to learn from your data. So when you show him, when you show to it the customers that left, the customers that still are prolonging, he will be able to recognize some kind of pattern that makes the difference between these two. And this learned pattern will be used in the future prediction for the customers. So that's basically from really high level overview, which is enough for the sake of this presentation, believe me, works. Now, I decided that I will talk about 3 main functionalities that can be built and implemented on websites that can be AI-based. Chatbots, recommender system, and semantic search. Oh. Okay, chatbots. Probably all of us know how chatbot works. We can treat them as kind of extension functionality on a website, or all kind of virtual assistants that is able to create a discussion with a visitor on the website. So here's the thing, very important one, that usually this AI solution these AI functionalities are made for making something to the user, making that he's more interested in your content on your website, making for him that it's easier to communicate with the company, or increasing the satisfaction of using such a website, of browsing it. And this is really important, because usually the first visit on website is also the first or even second contact of the potential customer with the company that you present. So if something goes wrong, like it would be too much effort to find specific information. It won't be interest. He won't find necessary for him information. He will probably leave and move to another website, to another competitor. So AI here usually is treated as some kind of help functionality that will feel user of this website, feel the visitor of the website more comfortable. So with chatbots, if a user is interested in something on the site, he can browse the website, write an email, or make a call, but nowadays probably usually more of people write an email. So, and it's hard. It's just hard. Who wants to write an email to a company after it's for me? I'm the guy who usually looks for chatbots or an option to just by pressing one button to schedule a call with someone. And if someone don't have chatbots and this specific information that he's looking for, he won't find it, okay, I don't have time. I've made it in while my coffee break. I will return. Probably I will forget and go to another service provider. What chatbot allows you that with much less effort, the user will get the specific information, like maybe some straightforward ones, like when are you open, guys, or what's the discounts, or what kind of assortment you have. And the user, the visitor, don't have to look via the whole browser to look specific, via the whole website looking for specific answer. He just can write it. But the chatbots can also provide more flexible, adjusted questions related specifically to the user if they are more advanced, more sufficient. You can make appointments. You can ask a very not trivial question that usually before the chatbots user had to have to make a call or schedule a call or write an email. So with the chatbots, the chance that after first visit to engage with the company is much faster, and the process is automated and much faster. So here are some use cases about ASOS. Is a fashion e-commerce company that they increased orders by 300% using Messenger Chatbot, and got 250% return on spend while reaching 3.5 times more people. So this is a significant number. Similar, Sephora. The chatbot that they used allowed them to automate the process of making appointments, and suddenly they noticed these appointments by 11%. So these are significant number that allow, and what is important, the chatbots allow to keep the same performance because it automate significant part of the process. Recommender system. These are one of my favorite. I believe that the recommender system applied on the websites are game changers. Recommender system allow to create personalized offer, personalized articles you will find on the main page. Imagine how often when you are standing in the line, you are in the traffic, just walking, you are just scrolling Instagram, LinkedIn, I know some other apps what you have installed on your phone that are e-commerce, and you are not necessarily looking for something specific because you don't use the search box, but you still are browsing and scrolling the whole stuff because they are personalized. People love to get personalized offer. People love to get advices, and that what recommender system allow you to have, because they analyze what your browsing history, your likes, your movie that you rate, your articles that you viewed, that you read and you enjoyed it, if it's a blog. And all of the things makes that the things you see at the first, in some way, suddenly you like it, you are interested in, even if you didn't thought to write them down in the search box specifically, and that people enjoy. That's why they keeping to return to each e-commerce platform, to each website where articles are personalized, where some content is personalized. So this functionality for websites makes sure and increase the probability that the users, the visitors that suddenly soon probably will convert to a clients will return to your website because they find something interesting. And also it saves them effort because they don't have to scroll via a whole website to look for specific information. They will just get the content they are interested in. And here Amazon used to gather the information about products that probably someone will buy. And after implementing the recommender system, if someone of you are using Amazon, frequently bought together, if you bought this and product A and B, you probably will like C. Only that, it increased their sales up to 30%, or 29% after implementing the recommender system. So you see, with the information you gather from a website, because website is an amazing tool to gather the information, you can really use it as a leverage to increase your sales. The same thing goes to Netflix. Like, did you know that 80% of content of the Netflix, which is huge, has been watched by the users only because the recommendations? Like, nobody else like even looked for it, searched it. Also, that means that Netflix can focus on promoting 20% of their content, which is probably the newest one. And what they care about, they use the recommender system on their website, on their platform, that the user won't churn, won't leave after they saw the movie that was promoted. And otherwise, in such huge amount of content, it's not comfortable to look for movies or TV series that you will be interested in. It's just too much to scroll, to look for. So that's what recommender system allows. Keeps users to stay on your website. Keep users that they will repeatedly visit your website to seek for specific article, if it's a blog, product, or any other content. Also, the recommender system can be used to on the main page if you have a different segment of products, like 1, 2, 3, 4 different kind of clients. You can already know what kind of product he will be interested in. So the application of recommender system are really wide. Semantic search. This is interesting use case, which helps to filter the content base, which information you gather on your website, if these are articles or products or anything else. The standard approach is that when you put any words in the search box, they usually look for the matches. If the words appears in the article, display it, which is not necessarily something accurate, and still the user will need, from the amount of filtered articles, for example, products, will look for the ones that is interesting in it. Instead of that, a semantic search, which can be also based on machine learning, is not only looking for the presence of specific word, but also it keeps the understanding, the meaning of the word, the meaning of the sentence, and based off that, it can, in very accurate way, display you the content you are interested in. So the case is here that if the visitor just visits your website and he won't find at the first glance or at the first try nothing interesting to him because your algorithm, your filter method fails, it's done. Basically, he will go out and look for something more. We have to keep users in interest. We have to make everything for them easier. So all of these functionalities are made for that, to be sure that the satisfaction of the first visit will be high, that the user will get something interesting that he's looking for, that we won't fail at this task. These functionalities like chatbots, recommenders, and semantic search allow to speed up the process of moving potential customer in the next stage of the sales funnel, make faster engagements, keep them to visit again the website because it's interesting. So everything of that makes a huge impact of the beginning of the first stages in the sales funnel. So, and that's how usually the recommender system, these functionalities are used. But that's not all. These are the main. But you can think about website in different way, because website is amazing tool to gathering information about the users. So you can use machine learning to get, and data science to get specific information about your visitors, to understand them and create personalized marketing campaign for different segment of the visitors. You can understand what kind of decision they make, how they behave on the website, and based on that you can adjust the design of the website and so on. So there's really a lot of these ways of how you can implement AI, but these are the main and usually used. So we see some application, we see some use cases, but now building AI products, it's, you have to understand that building AI products is a research and development, so the road is a little bit bumpy to achieve the full AI adoption in the organization. I think Tom would like to add something in that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Road for AI adoption could be really bumpy because of several of different challenges which may appear. So firstly, each of potential user of AI or company which want to decide to apply AI, it's crucial to understand the motivation behind this step. So evaluation of whether there is in fact room for AI in particular business would be essential here, because without such a understanding, the road towards AI adoption, it would be really challenging. So what would be important here would be to approach the AI adoption towards the business in a realistic way. So we should understand entire idea behind implementation AI, because otherwise we need to be prepared for 3 different scenarios. Firstly, it might be copying the cool kids, which means that we could see that for particular organizations, adoption of AI increased some particular business benchmarks. However, it does not necessarily mean that for us it would be the same. So we should avoid copying the solutions which were applied, as Kacper presented, for instance, in Netflix or Amazon, but rather look for solutions by ourselves and work with them together with experienced team. Secondly, another scenario which may happen is being hopeless optimist, because as with technology, different things may appear during implementation of this project. So also we need to be prepared for the worst thing. Of course, we could expect what would be the best for us as a consequence of implementing AI. However, we shouldn't be too much optimistic. And the third scenario which I wanted to mention would be going for perfection. So here it's also about our mindset, that when we are applying AI, it does not necessarily mean that it will provide results as soon as possible. So sometimes it would be really important to provide some bit of a time for training the model before it will provide us with satisfying outcomes. So also going for perfection in the first place might be a wrong way. Then, of course, when it comes to additional challenges which may appear, that would be definitely lack of business alignment. We basically, as organizations, we need to be able to find whether AI is part of our company culture, whether our organizational culture is open for innovation, and then check whether AI would be identified solution for different business cases within our company. Another step, another challenge which may appear is that that we shouldn't do AI basically. We shouldn't do all AI that you can do. So there are some parts of AI which should be also partially designed by experts in this particular field. And before passing development of those parts, it would be important to have a consultation with experts in this field. And finally, what would be a really big, what seems to be a challenge, that would be choosing the right algorithm. We need to find the right algorithm because it will help us to create business case. So understanding what kind of business outcome would be, what kind of business outcome should lead us to evaluation of that this model is good or not. So we should have such an understanding. Secondly, very important objective for us would be to create goals and also quick wins for particular model. And finally, getting also requirements for data. It's really crucial because sometimes we are in conversations with prospective clients. They really like to work with us. However, without data, it would be extremely challenging to start projects. So we always advise our clients that data here it's really important, and with data we will be able to help them. However, without data, it would be a big challenge. And the last thing which can also stop implementation of AI, it's about communication and understanding. So AI implementation, in fact, requires management to have a deeper understanding of current AI technologies. So people basically would need to have a clear vision how this AI can help organization to prosper better and to be more competitive on the market. And when it's present within particular organization, then there are more chances for successful AI adoption, which will lead to benefits from using this technology. So in nutshell, it would be all regarding challenges which may appear during AI implementation. In case you would like to have more information how and what's the key for successful AI implementation, Kasper together with Kaya from our marketing team created an ebook, what's the key to successful AI adoption. And I would strongly encourage all of the attendees of this webinar also to get familiar with this ebook, because basically there you will find more details how successfully work with AI. So that would be all regarding the challenges. Now maybe for the last words and the summarized sentence, I will also hand over to Kacper because probably he wanna say some kind of summary of our presentation.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, so there are a lot of challenges on that part, even if some of you were interested at the beginning but never developed anything. in their company, or you have only developers who didn't have a chance to find firstly the business goals for the companies. We have to build a strong bridge that will connect both of them, because otherwise it ends with a huge failure. That's why I'm not, if you are aware of that, in commercial way, 8 of 10 AI projects fails because of these issues that we mentioned, that Tom mentioned earlier. And these were the business one, but also it's really hard in the part of the research to be able to predict the necessary costs and time that we will need to fully develop a product that is already ready to use in the commercial way. And there are a lot of risk on each steps of developing such products. And in other hands, we can see huge value, like 1 billion saves, 300 more orders, but no one from start will guarantee that it will succeed, because we still have to work with your data. Consider that the models can have different precision, basically performance. So considering our experience with the clients, we strongly advise to do it in a let's say a smart way. If we already talk about AI, first of all, we have to be sure and close the proof of concept in as short time as possible. And after that, decide if you want to go forward and spend more money and time to develop such a product, to just strictly iterative way that will mitigate the risks of the failure, and be sure as fast as possible that it's gonna succeed. That's why we created such as AI sprint, where we when we have a methodology to really fast build a proof of concept, where we validate the hypothesis if an AI system with considering my data can be helpful for my business and will gain the right business value I'm looking for. And it's really important to work that closely with business, but also technical guys, because nowadays the AI-driven companies are the ones that are winning the market, but also it's really hard to get to that place to be fully AI-driven company. So because of the issues we mentioned before. So yeah, the right way in developing the AI products is really important to be successful. And now we know how AI can enhance your websites, but still have in mind that everything is in regarding your data and your data quality. And some of the models in different markets can and in different data can generate different values, not necessarily worse, but just different. So yeah, but still AI in the website have a future, in my opinion.
Wow. Thank you guys very much. While you were talking, the chat exploded. So I don't know if Tomasz actually was able to go through the chat and try to understand, and maybe he even answered some of the questions. But let's start with the first one before we hot waters. So the first question isn't AI costly? What is your experience now that you've been in AI for so many years and you understand it? Would you call it expensive?
Relatively, yes. It depends from different AI projects, but the relatively research and development projects are relatively more costly than standard software development project, because usually we still have spent money for software developers to build the whole wrappage of some kind of model, but still you have to spend money on machine learning engineers to do that. And but nowadays there are other solutions that there are some kind of service provider that have pre-built models that do it for you with auto development, but you have to pay them regular monthly cost subscription, because it's treat as a service, but relatively yes, it's more expensive than standard software development. If costly, calculate the ROI. Usually AI models can generate more ROI than any other nowadays products. So comparing to standard development, yes, but considering the business value, I don't know, but if it's, especially if it's not in the right way developed, yes, it can be costly. You can there are examples of spending a lot of time of developing models, which the project should be closed many months before that. And but you know, that's why the business needs with the technical needs have to be met. So if it's done wrong, it can be too costly, I would say. It would be too much expensive.
All right, that's very, interesting. I believe we might, if we still have some time, I would perhaps ask a couple of other questions, but let me move to the attendees question. So Olga said, I don't see AI in chatbots yet. Information of delivery and some pre-built logic. Are there examples to try how it's working? Right now, chatbots are so simple and linear that is something to be angry with. What's your opinion of this?
That's the best way of building the chatbots, the safest one, because it's really a quick win to develop such a functionality. But there are already well advanced chatbots that are using NLP. In this case, it's natural language processing and machine learning models that are really good at it. I can recommend to Google GPT-3 in the search box on the Google. It will help. It will show you the all possibilities how machine learning models can understand the language.
Interesting. Olga, do you have anything to add to your question, or perhaps to the answer that Kacper gave?
I can. I want to ask it. Write it down in chat on this name. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, and then Olga also said with recommendations, it looks much simpler. By seeking similarity in people, you can make these recommendations. Now, this is the recommendations that you were mentioning for Netflix. Most of the data is at hand already, but I still wish Amazon to work better. Right now, I still seeking interest books at Audible by myself.
Yeah, different developers build different solutions. It depends also on in that case. It also depends what kind of data they store, because the recommender system can have the same names, but they consider different data. Maybe different platforms use less rich data sets, less rich database. That means that the models will have less information and will not be able to make as accurate prediction as other ones. So yes, but I agree, you can feel the difference between different platforms, because there is no such thing as one recommender system. The recommender system are built for specific data, specific platform company stores, basically. But I didn't know that so I still seeking interesting books out there by myself, but I still wish Amazon to work better. You mean here to that are recommending the products, right? Like totally bought together.
Yes, they have some kind of recommendation for you, but it looks also very linear right now. So yeah, they have lots to improve of.
Sorry?
They have lots to improve.
Yeah, you mean because recommender system are adjusting for each user different. So maybe it's because you are visiting it not so often, or maybe your family members, friends are using
I have 75 books in my library.
Okay, and
they need to know what I am looking for, really.
Okay, but this is the question: if you share account with your friends, maybe, because you know this can make it trickier for the recommender system, or maybe you are buying books for someone other.
Nope, only for me.
Nope. Okay. Okay.
Why would they be suspicious if Olga is buying books for someone else?
No,
But yes, it's a good point. You
not
can
about
buy for
suspicion, but,
Kinder,
the recommender
etc.
system. Sorry, but because the recommender system will show different different orders, and sometimes it happens where there are some kind of accounts that different people can share, and for the recommender system are going crazy because different people have different preferences, but you can got only recommendation for one account, and suddenly no one is happy of that. But yes, recommender system. Maybe you have maybe
Amazon
taste in the books are really wide, which is good basically because different topics and different literatures always allow people to progress and get more knowledge. But yeah, it's very interesting thing. Maybe you should check if you are really interested in. You should check how the books are tagged in the category and see, maybe you will have some kind of idea why this kind of books were recommended, but you are not interested in them. Or maybe give them a chance and start to read maybe one chapter, and maybe suddenly I have something with like that with Netflix. I think that I don't like this movie, and I don't click on it even if it's recommended on the first place. But yeah, when I trust the recommendation, suddenly I enjoy it. So did you try the books that the Amazon recommend you?
Okay, it will be fun.
Okay, please.
That's interesting. Yes, Abba, please say.
Just coming in on what Olga is saying, Amazon Prime are currently doing a beta test, so that people who, if accounts are being used by different people in the household, so that their algorithms will be better at doing recommendations, and so that you can actually set it better. Netflix divides it by users in theory. It doesn't always work. But one of the things about recommendations anyway is the inherent biases that it includes as well. So, for example, with Netflix, if you happen to be liking Indian films because you are a Bollywood fan, it will also presume as a definite that you will want film recommendations from all Asian film centers.
Yeah.
And there's been lots of work that's been going on into the fact that people don't tend to be that broad, and how to make that a little bit more specific, because that's where the recommendation things actually it starts to fail, and people don't use it, and they don't also influence it. The same with Amazon Echo. You can delete wrong recommendations, so that, and you can actually influence the AI technology by saying, okay, this got this wrong, and this is what I was asking for. And the more people do that, and the more voice technology that we're doing with AI, it will improve the chatbot experience at Olga, and you will find that you'll get better recommendations, and it will be much more successful. And the same for the chatbots. We're using a lot now with AI and voice, and it's probably the biggest area of growth. It's certainly the most interesting, and it has the most impact for where we are with accessibility as well.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your input, and I believe everybody agrees. I mean, at least from a logical point of view, if not from the practice one, what Abba was saying. But I think that Ahmed actually has something to say, and he had a very specific attitude what he said there, saying that there's no tangible evidence that you look for stuff out of curiosity, to which I totally agree. And I mean, it's all about heuristics. And as the presentation goes, there's always a space for improvement. So, Ahmed, please step out and tell us now what you think now after you've heard the presentation. And are you still keeping the same attitude, and what's your experience? Ahmed. Ahmed, we cannot hear you. Okay, well, maybe Maybe something's wrong. Can you try now?
I think he's trying to connect his mic.
Oh, okay.
While I'm waiting for him to speak, I shared in the chat some articles about chatbots and AI, and which might answer some of the questions too, in addition to the the really interesting things that have come out in the presentation. So thank you for the speakers for taking the time.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. There is another question from Lokesh. Thank you, Lokesh. Do you know any tools that can be used for AI, at least for beginners? So where to start? I mean, if let's say I'm a rookie and I'm a rookie, where should I start?
Okay. First of all, the AI is the buzzword, but basically everything is hidden under keywords machine learning, and machine learning is strictly based on mathematics and statistics. And so this is the knowledge that at least to the calculus, the basics of calculus is needs to really understand deeply the theory behind the machine learning. About the developing, you mean by coding, the most popular at the start language is the Python, because it has amazing frameworks to work. Considering the deep learning is TensorFlow, it has Spaceit for NLP, scikit-learn for let's say standardized and the old school machine learning algorithm. So Python is the most popular the framework to use at the start, at least, and it's nice to go with it while learning and continue your journey with machine learning, because first of all, this is really easy to learn programming language Python. So yeah, I would recommend going this way. That was my way a couple of years ago.
So you think that programming actually would be the best part?
I mean, you have to understand what's happening under the program, but then you have to test if it works, and probably you are not able to calculate it by yourself, so you have to do that in programming language, and the Python's frameworks are the best for it. It has to be. I'm the guy who's strongly advised to understand deeply the theoretical assumption of the machine learning. But also we can't only focus on that. We have to be able to program it, because otherwise we won't be able to build any product that give any value or to experiment.
Godspeed. Another question. What if I'm a web designer, right? And I have a design agency, so I'm not a programmer, so I'm not able to program, and I don't have time to learn the new coding language. Are there any already made softwares, plugins, or something that I can use for WordPress in that related area?
Yeah, there are options to create such things, but the case is that you will have to find the right developer, and not the right developer, sorry, but the right provider with the machine learning, and in some way with some kind of extension to the WordPress, you will have to connect that. But still, I'm not sure about the WordPress. I'm not a web developer, especially not the web designer, but I'm not sure if you can decide what kind of data you can store from WordPress. I'm not the guy to answer for this, but for sure it's possible to connect in any way the AI with the WordPress, because the AI don't have to be on the web page. You can just update the information from the web page each on daily purpose. Just send the gathered data to somewhere cloud. Model will calculate some kind of statistic and will return. And based on that, the website will automate the functionalities that it should automate. So probably yes. I don't know for that, because in Neoteric we focus usually on personal development and building the personal product, specifically considering the company's data. But there are possibilities that you can connect with some kind of extension. Even you can if you are using WordPress, you can create an extension for this sake, and then connect it with the AI model that is developed somewhere else. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate. I believe Olga. I believe Abba actually has something to say.
There's also So IBM's, and I use that quite a lot. So IBM has a plugin for the IBM Watson on WordPress, and I think other people have used it before as well. And you do still need to have an understanding and to have a programmer's brain to really get the most of it. But there are other things as well. I've just shared a couple of links about how to get started. But if some of the Python is just not something that you want to take on, then have a look at Lobe, which is LOBE. And there are tools like that offer access to deep learning without coding. And there are quite a few softwares that are available that you can hook into the back end of WordPress. Tools like, say that in machine learning professionals, we use PyTorch and TensorFlow, but there's lots of things that you can hook into the back end. There's Google AI coming up, which is people are experimenting and hooking that into the back of WordPress as well. So Python is still my go-to. I would still say if you had to learn a language, that would be it. And I completely agree with the speaker that that's where, if you want to test something, to trial it and to have a wider base, if it's not in Python, then you're not going to really get that kind of results or the growth. But if you're just learning, and it can be fun doing that,
of course,
then there are other platforms that you can use. There's some really good courses out there as well about deep learning, and most of it is, if you don't want to be a programmer, you still need to understand how AI works and how the basics of the mathematics behind it, because if you don't understand how the data works, then you are more likely to influence it in ways you don't intend. And the AI ethics side of it is very hard to put into the picture if you don't understand how it's dealing with data in the first place. So one of the things that we've got in a campaign for We and AI, for example, and Women in AI conference a couple of weeks ago, was that people need to understand the AI to be able to not only build it, but also to book it. So if you are in a company and you are contracting somebody else to actually buy in the material or to buy in a program and adapt it with your organization, if you have no understanding of the things that you need to, of how it works, what it can do, where the biases are going to be, what you need to counteract, and how it can actually benefit your organization, then the chances are you're not going to be buying something that you have any idea about, and you're implementing something that's even more dangerous. So there is a big campaign on at the moment, including by the United Nations, to help people get to the basics of AI and actually implement it well. And there are so many machine learning projects for beginners. So I know we've got a couple of people on the call today who actually are training machine learning or data science, but there's absolutely loads. Elite, for example, have quite a lot where you can learn to write machine learning algorithms from scratch. You can learn to write a social media sentiment. I think I probably learned how to do it on one of those kind of systems. And you can also apply it to real life problems, which actually makes it more interesting to learn. And a lot of the web developers who I know who have taken part in Call for Code this last few months, and the results are going to be announced in October, they've been looking at solutions based on real life problems. They're not AI specialists, they're WordPress developers mainly, or web developers or developers of some sort. And they've been trying to find how you can put real life solutions using the technology that they use, using JavaScript, and then implement the AI facilities that are there through IBM, for example, and Watson, through the voice AI. And they're finding absolutely amazing solutions during the COVID crisis. So I would just say, do go and learn. It is fun. You can't really break anything while you're testing it, and just think about the ethics and how you want to use it responsibly, because that is absolutely crucial. back to you, Mayo.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's very extensive, and it's a rather more complicated than I thought so. And it takes a lot of seems learning and understanding prior to making any decision. But Olga had a very interesting question that I want to repeat here. It's like, how would you decide? I mean, what's the size of an e-shop, for instance? Or what's the amount of money that you need to invest for an AI to have a very good ROI? So how do you decide on this? Let's say I have a shop and I have 15,000 products that I'm selling. Is it worth for me to have an AI enhancement, or I can just live on the data that I'm able to check it out?
If you have 15,000 products and you're wondering about ROI, it's not enough information even to talk about it. As I said earlier, it's mostly about the data. Like, for example, if you have like, even on one hand, if you have even 15K products and you want to build recommender system, but in the historical transaction of your users, they bought only one product, there's not allowed to recommend and to learn. And considering the ROI, it's not about if I would, in my case, it's not about the number of products that are make the ROI. Of course, the transaction frequency of different products and different users is important for making machine learning model, but this is about the accuracy, the model's performance, for example. But and you can achieve model's performance huge, but still didn't get the right business value from it. You have to think about, okay, well, so because you are making assumption, you have to guess if my recommended products would be okay, even if will my users buy it, because maybe this is FMCG products that they will renew each month or each week. So let's assume different products that the customers are buying, what kind of provision I will get from it, even if my model's performance is good enough. It's not enough information to now to forecast the ROI. We should go different way. The question should be, okay, can I get not about the ROI, about the investigation. I'm interested in the, let's say, revenue. I want to increase my revenue up to 30%. How's that possible? Okay, so now I have to sell such amount of additional products per week or per month. I have this amount of users. I have this kind of the historical data. Okay, so now, assuming that for each recommendation, which is correct on each for example, on 10 each on 10 correct recommendation, one user, I will convince one user. I need to understand my own business if it's possible. One user will buy it. So considering this amount of users and this model's performance, I will get this objective. So now based on that, I can reverse engineer the model's accuracy I should get and see what kind of, and based on that, based on accuracy that I will need on recommender system, I can start the deployment. Right? So we have to go out from business value and even ask if there are others way to gather the revenue, for example, because not maybe recommender system, but we are spending a lot of money to the recommender system, even if our customer satisfaction is high, but maybe the churn is our problem. So maybe it's quicker win to solve the churn problem. Yeah. So
yeah, it's very logical what you're saying. So it's not the AI, it's not always the solution, right?
It's not always. I'm not the fan of putting everywhere AI just for the sake of it. To generate the business value, it should be well deducted to make the decision of keeping this way of development.
Sure.
Especially if it's a first contact with AI for the organization, especially with it.
Thank you. There is another very interesting question, and I'm really happy that Predrag asked it. It says, have GDPR, HIPAA, or CCPA impacted AI field? If yes, how? So, I mean, working with data, storing with data, calculating data, doing algorithms, whatever, how did actually AI was impacted by GDPR?
Well, for sure, it narrows the amount of features we can use for such a model training. Also, it depends. But any data restrictions that are not allowing to use for the sake of gaining business value is sometimes it's making something impossible, sometimes make something harder, or sometimes it doesn't change anything because we wouldn't have any gain of using this parameter. So it depends, but it has the change. It would be easier if we could use every data, but this is the logical way. But also we have to think ethically that that is not always fair to use and gather information about people.
Thank you very much. Let me move to another question. What we have here. Or perhaps somebody from the audience would like to ask a new question. Yes, it was good. How do we request the ebook, please? Or Abba has a question. How do we request the ebook? Could you share the link with us?
They've shared the link in the chat.
Oh, all right.
They've been lovely, so thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to put my internet in one of the plugins, but it's not working because they're all busy.
I have a new question. I'm just and I was wondering whether there would be any merit in having some kind of chat collaboration area where people who are in WordPress could also talk about the new technological developments. And so I'm meaning outside WordPress. So things like machine learning, ML, and AI in general, but also other technological developments that are coming in that are influencing things. Because at the moment, there doesn't really seem to be that. And then the Facebook groups and things that discuss these things tend to be at a very basic level. And it just seems in an open source project, there must be a way that we could collaborate together to make AI's involvement and new technology in general with WordPress much better, much more streamlined, much more effective, much more ethical, and then share that learning too, where it is possible to do so.
Yeah, it will also require both experience, machine learning guys also, yeah, but also the ones who are very well experienced in WordPress and building the extension. Yeah.
Do you think it would be worth further exploring an area where that collaboration could happen?
From my point of view, I think such a service will be much easier to go on, especially at the first contact with AI. That someone's WordPress is much easier, to just install the extension. That it would be much easier to the users that are having WordPress to use AI, to the first contact the AI and apply it, especially if it was as easy as you described it. So I think it would be a really it would be a very significant gain for the web, for the WordPress users, that they have such easy access to implement AI extension on their service.
And I think in terms of implementation, it's for a JavaScript developer implementing IBM's Watson, for example. I mean, learn it, but it's not hugely difficult.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's about to writing the right API, yeah. Just for the sake of, you don't need to code the API. You can, different source cloud providers or AI providers service. Just you have to write an API, and the documentation is made for them in 4 or 5 languages.
Yeah.
So it already happens.
Yeah, and there's also marketing and in the wider sense of the word, and a range of e-commerce things that are now coming in with AI ready, they call them, but they're not necessarily, you know, off the shelf in the same way as a plugin. And that will improve, and that technology will improve too. And there's lots of AI captioning tools now as well that are we're developing in terms of within the community as well. And it's just it's a topic that comes up regularly, and outside WordPress there are technical groups that do this already, but there isn't really one within the WordPress ecosystem. So I thought it was a good opportunity to ask yourselves and the people from this call whether that would be something, you know, as a possibility for the future, really. And I'm having a conversation with some people from Call for Code, because there are a few WordPress projects in that as well, to see if there's any shared learning that can be done without affecting commercial, obviously, and under the GPL license. So thank you for that input. It's really useful.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Interesting idea. It's really interesting idea. I see the value here for the WordPress user. Yeah. And that's true. It's not yet well developed for such as simple as extensions.
No.
I think some partnerships are going to develop here, or at least friendships. So I'm very happy to see this. I just want to also pay attention to other attendees' questions, which is like, what do you think about AI and the visual both that Relia asked, Mr. Relia?
Sorry, what's the question? I'm looking.
What do you think about AI and visual both?
What do you mean by visual bot? Could you precise it?
Yes, I can. I'm talking about chatbot, but chatbot you can only communicate with messages, of course.
Yeah.
Visual bot is something like this. If you are using a mobile phone, something like Google Lens. I'm talking about this. I'm thinking about this. So if you are using like here camera, like I'm using a new, so that I can communicate with artificial intelligence like this. If I can talk, it can understand what I'm talking, because it can read from my lips and everything else. What do you think about this? Is there a future in that?
Yeah, yes, of course. It's even very well, not maybe very well, but on the research segment, very well trained. There are some models that are able to detect specific points around the mouth, nose, eyes, even limbs and something. So considering that they can extract the coordinates of your mouth and how the shape is changing, then the next part should be to train the model that will be able to, from the movement of mouth, to extract the right information. Mm-hmm. Maybe also analyze the eyes of someone. If someone is maybe how is someone's feeling, we can extract much more information just the text. We can extract the emotion, the behavior.
Yes, of course. I'm thinking about this.
Yeah, of course. It's really well nowadays. Some parts of it really well developed. I also have taken. I also take an effort months ago to working on extracting the 2D body pose.
Okay.
From the picture and videos. So yeah. It to be used very well in because most of the accessible data that are open source are for the research only purpose, and the amount of labeling this kind of data is enormous effort to do that. So in research, yes. In the commercial use, I don't think that it would be soon, because someone has to pay for the data.
So you think that the problem is data? There is not enough data, and it must be.
For in some parts that they are enough. For some parts are not. Let's split it. For the proof of concept purpose, like simple way, it's already proved that it's possible. We have the data from the MVP. Maybe also at some restricted way of MVP, but still the data are open source data also have their own license. Mm-hmm. Some of them are Apache 2.0, different are GPL, different only research license. That everything makes restriction in what way you want to use this data. If you train the model on data that you can't use in commercial way, so it's for commercial use, you can do that basically.
Okay, thank you very much.
But from the scientific way, of course, it's you just write computer vision in Google and ask yourself about, for example, 2D body pose. You will see amazing effects.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know. I'm already doing this, and I as a matter of fact, right now I just applied for I Combinator or something like this, and I don't know, maybe everything will be okay, but I think, that's my opinion, that visual bot, something like chatbot, but visually, in future it will be really something huge, because like right now, you and I, we can see each other. You can see myself, I can see you, we can understand what is going on with and without talking. With messages and everything else, there are lots of problems. It's just messaging. It's a blind. You know what I mean? So I think that's the future, and I think that every day it will be more and more data about this, and my opinion, in next 3-4 years it will be much more than today, and it will be almost in everyday use, something like this. That's what I'm thinking.
There's quite a lot of visual AI already in operation as well, and it's used quite a lot in sense and sentiment analysis. And supermarkets have been using it for years, and not necessarily always in the best way. So, you know, when you go into a supermarket, there's a huge amount of AI about the visual and how people shop that has a lot of ethical issues, but also one of the issues that's increasingly coming up about visual AI's development is the privacy question. A couple of people mentioned that earlier.
Yes, I know. I thought about this, but if there is a program, I would say program that will be delete everything else, but main thing, for example, if I want to scan or see just this smartphone, and everything else will be deleted. For example, right now you can't see anything behind me because I just put this one. It can be a really easy solution. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And the gaming technology is, and the gamification stuff is leading the development in visual AI at the moment, as you would probably expect. And all of those games where you've all probably played, where you've got a video recording your movements, and that's assessing right down from Nintendo Wii, you know, and that
yes.
level. That has all been, that is a form of visual AI that has been, so it's been around for a long time. People may not necessarily know that it's recording and all that data and how it's being used and how that is coming up to how it's the consumer is affected by that. But one of the big issues about visual AI is the fact that we're moving towards biometric data for right down to your computer, your lights, your front door. But if all that data is being captured in terms of visual AI, the security of the biometric then becomes into question.
Yes, of course, I know that, but I think there is also solutions to get.
Sounds like you
yes.
need to be working in that area, which it's great. You know, there's lots, and we need people like yourself who have that interest and who can think of solutions to the ethical issues to make them positive.
Yes, I know. Okay, so we can do, I think we will need only session for this because there are lots of things about this that I need to ask. Never mind, we can go on with other questions.
At least, Relat, now, Ivan, now you know whom you need to chase, okay?
Yes, I know.
A couple of faces, you know, that actually can become quite close partners in this. And Lokesh has also a question. I don't want to go this too much into long. We still have a game to play, right? So I think, yeah, we still have a game to play. And I just want to ask about Chat Fuel. I don't know if you heard about Chat Fuel. Lokesh, could you explain this Chat Fuel thing that you
So it's a DIY tool that helps you make a bot for Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
So you can.
I think I saw the framework, but this is kind of fixed algorithm, right?
Yeah, more of a fixed algorithm. You can train it, for a few commands. If some user puts in some kind of input, then it can give you some fixed answers. It can maybe sync it up to your blog post and serve users with the latest articles using Zapier, and it has some extra functions. Yep. So is that a good tool if you don't want to spend too much into AI and
Yeah, it's as I said earlier, any framework that allows you, if you don't need any sufficient solution that will understand everything about anything and it just is able to solve by simple algorithm, don't go into AI. Don't overcomplicate your life with that. AI is great. It's a huge hype of it, but if you already are able to decide what kind of paths, conversation paths you want to create, why to implement AI if you don't need it? And especially if you want to learn something, it's better to just, if you want to use AI in NLP, I would rather just try from the scratch with analyzing the text sentiment, learn something about word embedding and so on. And because building the model that will able to communicate and creating a framework for the chatbot is different thing, because one, you are somewhere, you are in machine learning, you are building just the model, but somewhere else you have to build the whole package that you will wrap the model inside. So if you need just without AI, just that will allow you really fast build a chatbot, do it. If you want with AI, the solution don't have AI, so you have to find somewhere else.
Yes.
Wow, that's great. And Olga wants to share a Russian film that she just remembered. Hota Beach. How do you read this?
Hotabich.
Hotabich.
It's fun. I think if you can